viewers, and welcome to more content looking at Grip. Those of you that haven't seen it, it's a game that sort of pays homage to the Roll Cage game, which was released on the PS1 many years ago, and we've been following its development over the last couple of years. And you can see here, as ever, looks absolutely spectacular as I'm racing one of the new tracks, and these are very challenging to drive, but I was able to sort of find my way around within a few laps and get on to competing. It's a very, very challenging game. It's moved on a lot since I last played it a while ago. I do come on it from time to time. Handling wise, at the moment I'm not as keen as I was in terms of the handling. I'm finding the cars a bit too twitchy, very, very twitchy indeed, and I'll get to that more in a moment. Also, some areas like this are very spectacular, but it's hard to see where the track is going, and sometimes that adds to the... I can see why they've done it, but in terms of a sort of a wider audience, it's very, very hard indeed to actually just know where to go sometimes. I think that can be a little bit tricky. But that was a complete lap of that new circuit. As you can see here, just in terms of sensitivity, sometimes when your car goes off, it keeps getting reset in areas where it just lands you on the edge of the track, and then that's it, it's race over. You might as well just restart, because you're just going to get, as you can see there, I try and turn, but it took a lot just to keep on the track. So there's a few areas there where if you go off, and some of that's just down to sort of the over twitchy nature of the car. I know some people say, well, alter the settings to the way you want it, but I think as a default it just needs to be a bit heavier, because sometimes it sort of makes it frustrating rather than challenging. And the other thing is that sometimes it's better to crash into other cars rather than avoid them, because turning is so sort of overly sensitive. But certainly a very, very tricky circuit. I'm still learning it at this stage. Just managing to make it through there, but you can see very tricky. But of course that off there just took me from sort of first to last, as it were, in terms of the timing, and you just lose all that time just getting back up to speed and continuing. So now we're looking at the Hayes circuit, which is another one of the new circuits that's been added. Very tricky to drive. You know, it's difficult primarily because of the sensitivity. You can see there you can just float off the course, which is a little bit frustrating at the moment. You'll see other cars flying off as well, and also if you try to avoid other cars, you can see how it oversteered. I was just trying to avoid, and in the end after that I decided it was better to crash into the back of another car than try to avoid it like that, because I know that if I try and avoid it, there's more chance of me going off than there is if I don't avoid it. So certainly you see when you start bumping walls, it's a little bit of pinball at the moment. Just need to refine the oversensitivity of the controls. Part of that is like a sort of a speed control, if you like, in terms of perhaps altering the sensitivity at different speeds, just to make it more achievable when you're at slower speeds in particular. But as you can see, you're really sort of little touches. There's not really much in the way of analog ground to cover there. So I'm learning my way around this track. I do get better as the race goes on, actually. It's amazing, you know, literally a couple of laps on it, and this was my first race, and I start to learn, oh, I see those walls represent dead ends, and there's that section earlier where you have to drive onto the wall at the right place, and what kind of speeds you can manage through these sections. This is still a work in progress track as well, so everything you see here is still in development as I work my way through. Again, not able to avoid that car. I thought, let's just hit the back of him. Otherwise, if we twitch to avoid him, could end up just flying off the course. I'm just trying to be really gentle with the controls. And working my way around. I'm gradually learning the different sort of routes to take that suit me and my style. But overall, I mean, the game itself is looking great. I mean, let's face it, the graphics are pretty fantastic. Unreal Engine, and they're really doing a good job there. The original tracks, and we'll look at one of those in just a moment, have really come on nicely. But control-wise, I enjoyed it more in the past with the original control method than I do right now. I am finding it just not fun enough to keep the car on the road at the moment in terms of the sensitivity, and I think that needs to be dialed down a bit. Perhaps it works on some of the more complex tracks, I don't know, but even some of the other tracks are quite hard, so difficulty of the game in general is very high now. And it certainly, I mean, obviously it's geared towards sort of core gaming audience, those who played the PlayStation original, but the ways I'm coming up there, wheel to wheel, oh, goodness, it's so difficult when you have such a sensitive car to drive. Sun effects. Great feeling of speed. I generally always feel more comfortable driving from behind the car than I do in it or on it. Oh, I get knocked off to the side. It's a bit of a pain there. Just preparing to overtake those guys. Fierce battle going on, but learning the course. You can see from those first couple of laps, didn't know where I was going, and now I've got a rough idea. So I picked these things up pretty quickly, but just made a mistake but kept it together. Now I'm looking for the bit where I turn back onto the track again. It's just coming up here, following that guy in front. There it is. That prevents me falling off like I was earlier to the dead end. So learn the tracks, and it's, you know, you can get some good racing out of it, but it's very challenging all round. This is it just helps. Obviously I play a lot of racing games and learn tracks pretty quickly, but still when you touch a wall you get that pinball effect, and say sorting that sensitivity out is another thing as well. So the package is growing all the time. Lots of tracks, new cars, fast cars. I haven't been through them all yet, but we're going to take a look now at one of the other tracks that they just came back to, you know, one of the older circuits, if you like, to see how it's developed. And here we see now one of the tracks that was featured in the original trailer for the game. Amazing with the lighting. I mean, it looked amazing in the first place. It's just much faster now, and a lot more challenging as well, which is good. It adds more in terms of some of it was a bit empty when it was still in development, but they're really picking up on that. Again, the sensitivity of the controls was challenging in terms of how it worked. I found that the AI with the weapons, you know, there's sometimes a little bit that Mario Kart feeling where when you're leading the race, you're not for long, so you can go from first to last in one corner because literally everybody decides to target you and blow you up. That can be a bit frustrating at times, but no doubt there are skills to somehow defend yourself. I just haven't discovered what those are yet. So racing around, I like that little effect there with your HUD getting affected. There's me using the shield because why not? You really want to defend yourself. Look at the speed though. Wow. Detailed environments, lots of speed. It is a good looking game. And in a way it sort of harks back to the old school gameplay years ago. You know, there's no rule book here, you know, not lots of tutorial you need to discover. It's just get in there and race fast and trying to avoid a weapon there. That was why I was dodging to the side. Proper intense. So I'm just going to leave you with some of this gameplay now. We'll come back to this another time, and there'll be more from me very soon.